Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode we're talking about top 10 cornerbacks in the 2024 NFL Draft based on data. So we're going to look at them based on their athleticism, production, and other various statistical factors to see who the top cornerbacks are based on data, based on their data perspective. Stay tuned until the end of the video where we reveal who the top cornerback is based on data. But before we get into that, we have to look at how I evaluated these prospects. First off, we look at defensive market share. Defensive market share takes a look at the percentage of the defense they made up in terms of various statistics, whether it's solo tackles, interceptions, or pass deflections specifically for cornerback. These numbers are graded and then compared to every single cornerback performance since the 1989 NFL draft class to give you that perspective or context in terms of what their production was. Then, of course, we look at mass density athleticism, which takes a look at how athletic they are for their size, based on the vertical, the broad jump, the 40-yard dash, short shuttle, three cone, all those different kinds of things. Then, of course, we have adjusted production scores, which take a look at their production for the context of the school they played on, the competition they faced at that school, and their age, to give you contextual production, if you will. And there are heavy correlations in terms of adjusted production scores. It's by far one of the most correlative metrics that I use in evaluation. Well, that's stuff out of the way. Let's get to number 10 on this list, which we have Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson. His data grade is 83.96 out of 100. The biggest pros for him, he had near elite pass score or adjusted production score and above average speed. Cons, below average explosiveness, and below average solo tackle / interception market share. I did a video in the past on Nate Wiggins, just looking at his production traits, where there was some comparisons for him as sort of a man corner. But when you look at his production traits, as you can see right here, there are some concerns there with it. Also taking a look at his athleticism traits, he has above average speed, obviously, but his explosiveness is 11 percentile in terms of his explosiveness. So not the most explosive player, very fast though. And those are the biggest concerns is athletically speaking, he's not exactly that great as an athlete. I mean, he ran really fast, but his overall athleticism is really not that impressive. Then, of course, you look at his adjusted production scores, taking a look at his pass score and his age score. All those areas hit pretty much where you want them to hit at the position. But Nate Wiggins is an interesting prospect. He ran really fast. He's also very thin as a prospect, very low in terms of his body weight. And again, most cornerbacks that are at that weight kind of struggle a little bit. I mean, we'll see what happens with Nate Wiggins, but I don't think he's going to be a bust per se. But there are bust potential things in his data that are concerning. Then, of course, we get to number 9 on this list, which is Christian Roland Wallace. He had an 84.06 out of 100 data score. Pros, near elite solo tackle market share, and above average explosiveness and elite pass score. Cons would be below average speed / flexibility. Based on his production traits, as you can see here, good production overall in all the big three production metrics you're looking for. Athleticism wise, this is where his data kind of falls off a cliff. Above average explosiveness with below average speed and below average flexibility. This limits him scheme wise to be more of a zone cornerback at the next level. But overall, when you look at his adjusted production traits, which is the last point to kind of talk about, there are some positives there. You did play at LSU. He was very productive for playing at LSU. So I think Christian Roland Wallace, if he goes to the right scheme that utilizes his overall ability as an athlete, I think he could be a successful player at the NFL level. At the very least, maybe a backup player. Then, of course, we get to number 8 on this list, which is Jarvis Brown Jr. from Louisville. His data grade is 85.62 out of 100. His pros, he had elite solo tackle / pass deflection market share, above average speed and flexibility. Cons, does not have elite athleticism traits. Most of the cornerbacks in this particular draft class don't have elite athleticism traits, so it is a bit concerning from that perspective. But they were productive, so there is going to be a lot of players in this year that might underperform because of the athleticism issues, but they do have good production. Taking a look at his production traits, as you can see right here, good solo tackle pass deflection data, but interception market share was really not there for him. Taking a look at athleticism traits, he had a decent profile, more so like a starter, fringe starter profile based on his athleticism traits. And of course, you get to his adjusted production, a great adjusted production score, but you also have to take into account his athleticism traits, which weren't elite. So those are the biggest concerns with Jarvis Brown Jr., but he is number 10 on this list because he did have very good production. Then, of course, we get to number 7 on this list, which is Tyrion Mitchell from Toledo. Pros, he had elite interception / pass deflection market share and elite speed. Cons, his level of competition, and he's an older prospect. Data rate is 88.75 out of 100. Now, he's not super old per se, but he is older. And when you add in the fact that he mainly played at Toledo, it does lower his overall potential because of that. I think if Tyrion Mitchell played at Alabama and produced like he produced, or played at a higher level program, I think he would do better in terms of his data. But that's the biggest knock on him is his level of competition. Take a look at his production traits. Great production overall, as you can see in terms of interceptions, pass deflections. Athleticism-wise, he has an elite speed score. And then, of course, when you look at his adjusted production traits, he pretty much is in the 80 percentile in terms of his adjusted production. A lot of that is because of his level of competition, which is the biggest thing that kind of draws down his profile. Now let's get to number 6 on this list, which is Benny Bishop Jr. from West Virginia. Overall data grade 90.67 out of 100. Pros, he had elite production overall and above average speed / flexibility. Cons, he had below average explosiveness for his size. Taking a look at his production traits, he probably was the most productive cornerback out of this class based on the big 3 production traits that you're looking at. Also, athleticism-wise, he has above average speed, but his explosiveness and his flexibility are not exactly that great. But he is close to the starter area at the position. Then, of course, when you get to his adjusted production traits, elite production traits overall in terms of his pass score. Age is a little lower, but good profile overall. I think he's underrated. Benny Bishop Jr. is probably one of the more underrated cornerbacks in this draft class based on his overall data set. Of course, you get to number 5 on this list, which is T.J. Tampa from Iowa State. Data grade is 92.13 out of 100. Pros, he had elite pass deflection mark share and elite pass score. Cons, below average speed and average flexibility. Taking a look at his production traits here, as you can see, good solo tackle data, good pass deflection data, not really there in terms of interceptions. This is the biggest concern. Athleticism-wise, he had an 18 percentile speed score. With a 52 percentile flexibility score. Those numbers are just not cutting it at the position, and that's the biggest concern. I hope it's because of injury that the numbers aren't exactly where they need to be, but that's the biggest concern with him overall is his athleticism traits. And of course, you get to his adjusted production traits. He was fantastic in terms of age and his pass score. And TJ Tampa has great film as well. So if you ever get a chance to see him, check him out. Great film overall. Has some good matchups, and I think he's despite the athleticism testing, I think he might end up being something interesting at the NFL level. Then, of course, we get to number 4 on this list, which is Max Melton from Rutgers. His data grade is 92.33 out of 100. Pros, he had elite interception market share with near elite explosiveness and near elite speed. Cons, below average solo tackle market share and average pass deflection market share. Taking a look at his production traits, everything but interceptions, not really much in terms of solo tackles and pass deflection. Taking a look at his athleticism traits, near elite explosiveness, near elite speed with below average flexibility. This is more so the profile of a zone corner in many ways. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Melton went to, say, the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see. But he is interesting as an athlete overall. And of course, we get to his adjusted production traits. Great in terms of his age and his pass score overall. His adjusted production traits are just fantastic. Then we get to number 3 on this list, which is Tyrion Arnold from Alabama. His data grade is 92.73 out of 100. He had elite pass score, above average athleticism overall. His cons is he does not have elite athleticism overall. So taking a look at his production traits, all those numbers are fantastic. Hits the all-pro averages in terms of his production. But when you get to his athleticism traits, not really there in terms of athleticism for him. He had below average speed with above average flexibility traits. So that's the biggest concern with Arnold is those issues right there. And of course, you get to his adjusted production traits, which were fantastic, probably the best adjusted production traits out of this draft class. But his athleticism really drops him. Then we get to number 2 on this list, which is KoolAid McKinney from Alabama. His data grade is 95.56 out of 100. Pros, he had near elite pass deflection market share and elite pass score. Cons, does not have elite or near elite athleticism traits. Taking a look at his production traits right here. near, decent overall production, especially in terms of pass deflection data. His athleticism traits, though, are above average, but they're not elite. Did not do the short shuttle three cone either. And of course, you look at his adjusted production traits are great, fantastic. Biggest reason why he's here is because of his adjusted production traits. But based on his athleticism traits, you can't really project him as an All-Pro or Pro Bowl cornerback because of those issues, athletically speaking. And then the number one cornerback in the 2024 NFL draft class, based on data, is Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Data grade is 96.92 out of 100. Elite solo tackle market share, near elite interception market share, and near elite explosiveness are his pros. His cons did not perform short shuttle or three cone. Pass deflection market share is not elite. Taking a look at his market share data here, great solo tackle data, good interception data, pass deflection data not really there. Tested kind of like a zone corner in many ways based on his data. Then, of course, you look at his athleticism traits, near elite explosiveness, above average speed, which are all good traits to have. And then his adjusted production traits are just bonkers, as you can see right here with his pass score and his age score. Overall, though, this cornerback class is weak. It has a lot of really productive players, but the athleticism is not there for them. I could count on my hand the players that I just mentioned that actually had athleticism that I feel okay about at the NFL level in terms of translating. So because of that, it's a mixed bag of results, if you will. From a production standpoint, there's a lot of cornerbacks in this class that I think are going to do well, but at the same time, it's a lot of these guys are kind of an enigma in terms of their data. But we'll see what happens overall. There might also be a cornerback that I didn't even mention who tested well as an athlete who might end up becoming something interesting. That's another thing that could happen in this class. But overall, it's a good class in terms of production, but not much in terms of athleticism to really get excited about. So check out these videos right here. If you want to see more content like mine, go to my formerly known as Twitter account at Geometrics. Also check out patreon.com/jcoburn. And if you have not done it yet, go to the link in the description for the 2024 NFL Draft Analytics Guide, which is the 9th annual guide that I made. It's the best work I've produced thus far in terms of a data guide. And if you like the content that I make, buy that guide, enjoy that guide, because it'll fill you in on a lot of the stuff I'm talking about right now, as well as fleshing out the rest of the class. With all this stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.